Welcome back to this clown's garage. In this video I will show you a quick fix on the infamous 12-7 wobble on the steering column for GMs. And this is what it looks like. You grab it from 12 and 7 and it wobbles like that. That's usually the pivot pins in here. There's a collar and the pins create like an oval shape and they go back and forth. I have a column outside the car. I'll show you what that looks like. There's another issue with these columns. If they wobble like all over the place, not just this wobble this way, but all over the place, like it doesn't wobble this way, then there's 3 screws inside the column down here. Those are usually loose. But this is definitely the pivot pins. So this is where it sits inside the steering column, and you can get to this without taking the whole column apart. We'll show you that installation from A to Z in a minute. And Unbalanced Engineering sells these pins right here. They're oversized, and you can pop this one out with a special tool, pop this one in, and it takes up that slack. And this is the collar I was talking about, and it becomes oblong over here, and it shakes back and forth. What happens is this tilt spring here puts a lot of stress on the driver's side pin, which is right here. So let's begin. So first thing you gotta do is take the tilt lever off. It just unscrews counterclockwise, just like that. Now there's a cap back here. This just pops right off just like that. Alright, now this is a staple remover, or you could put a panel remover back here on this clip, and this just pops right out just like that. This pops in there. Now, another issue you could have with the pivot pin being worn out is that you don't have high beams. Alright, now this, you could just squeeze it together and just pop it out. So, let's try that. Just like that. And it needs a little finagling, but it'll come out. You can move the high beam switch out of the way. Oh, and it pops just like that, it pops out. Now the high beam rod extender piece, you just reach behind, and it's just over there. Now this is very important because when you put everything back together, this is how this sits in here. This sits like this and it goes back and forth. And this sits on the high beam rod. Okay? Now this is how this sits in here. Okay, and this rod sits in there like that. And this pushes up and down on the rod. Alright, one thing you need to check is go underneath the dash, and you see that? There's a rod, and that's the high beam switch. Make sure it's in the middle, and when you put your hand on top, you feel that rod, and you push down on it, it should click, just like that. Just like that. Sorry guys, this is the best I could do. Right there. Just like that. Okay? And that's that rod that little plastic piece goes onto. So I had my finger on here, and that's the high beam. So first thing you do when you take everything apart, make sure you hear that clicking when you push down this rod, because you want that tension there, or else your high beams aren't going to work. So this is the snap-on tool we're going to use. You can also make your own pivot pin puller from a socket and a grade 8 bolt. Has to be grade 8 because it'll strip the threads. So this is your pivot pin. This threads on here all the way down, and then once this is threaded all the way down, you start screwing this down and it'll push the pin out. So that's what I'm going to do now on the column. Alright, now put this in. Alright, so this is bottomed out. Now turn the nut. That's a 1/2 inch nut. Alright, so first thing you do is you push down on a steering wheel when you're doing this. And we're going to go ahead and take that pivot pin out now. And it's coming out. There it is. There it is, folks. Alright, now you're still holding the steering wheel down. You're going to push this in, the new pin that's oversized. Wobble it around so everything lines up. Just keep wobbling and pushing it in. And now take a punch and whack it like it owes you money.
Give it a little tap.
Okay. Until it's flush, keep hitting it. So after giving it some good wax, this is actually flat here with the housing. Now if you can see here, this is a lot better than before. And my main goal was to get these high beams to work. So now we're going to put everything back together. Okay, now we're going to put the tilt lever back on so we can tilt the steering column up to give us more space, access space in the back. And take the tilt lever back off. Alright, so remember, this is how this sits once it's installed. But we're going to put this in first just because it's kind of tight quarters over there. And this is going to sit behind that rod. So we're going to put this in first, and we're going to sit this on it. Goes in like that. And you got to feel it. We'll show you again one more time on the column how that's supposed to sit. But you got to do it by hand. And now it's sitting there. Now you put this cap on. Make sure the wires are sticking through here. Through here when you put this on. You have to go behind the switch over there. And slide it in. You can now just grab it. Push it in. And that's it. So like I said, this sits in here just like that. And when you put this cap in, this cap sits in here between this and this when you're sliding that in. So a quick check now that everything's in is to see if the high beams work, and they do. They work, baby. We have high beams. Now push the wires in back here. That's in. Now put this cover on, just like that, and the tilt lever. And that's how you fix a GM tilt steering issue. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel, like me, and share me. See ya!